giving us notification, so it's very hard for us to know.
Right.
It's 140 days. I think the idea is that you provide the guidelines, give them the education of what the policy is, and then you're basically asking for them to comply with it.
But I think we need to probably put a process in there, because if we're going to have it, then we need to have some way of enforcing it.
That's going to be the other issue I was going to bring up, and that goes for all the sections of your
Right.
municipal code, that enforcement of this code is practically impossible given what you have right now.
Right. Well, that's, you know, that's the whole thing. It's just like ordinances and things like that. I think it's good that we, you know, that we're reviewing this, but there has to be some place in there how we're going to enforce it. Just like if a person comes in from the outside and wants to put their signs out, they should go through the process of finding their way to City Hall and taking out a permit to put political signs up. That way they would know the length of time. And then that way we could get their address and send them a little additional revenue seeker if they don't get their signs down.
The other section I just wanted to point out for the council's information, which was heavily discussed with the chamber and the commissioners, was it's on page 7, 1769-120, prohibited signs. The chamber was very interested with regard to item DE, the human billboards and the air dancers.
Yes.
That was an issue that was discussed heavily.
Mm-hmm. And I would discuss it. I think that's something we need to really look and review.
Part of my purpose here tonight was to convey to the council that with the exception of the addition of the 140 days for political signs, there weren't any other proposed changes to the ordinance that you'd seen from previous opportunities to review it. So what you see here is pretty much up to date.
But I think that if we look on page 7, where we prohibit the air signs and the roof signs and the things we have a lot of signs in the city of Atwater that are not legal according to this. And so I think it's something that and I had a business person call me this afternoon, and he was concerned about this, that, you know, we really have to think long and hard about our business people. And I know some of us don't like the signs and things like that, but, you know, when you have a small business, if they feel that that's a way of attracting people to come through their doors, I think it's something that we need to think about. Councilman Bergman.
Thank you, Mayor. And I kind of want to echo those sentiments. I also have talked to some businesses, and they do have concerns, especially in light of the economy. Profits are slim, and they don't have the ability for the more expensive advertising,
Right.
be it radio, newspaper, and that. And this is a way for them to advertise their business. And I talked to one business owner who, because of some of these signs, was very successful in the liquidation of their business, and they had been told that by people that came in. So I'm a little concerned too that we cut this too short and affect some of our businesses that are not properly being or prospering well because of the economy. So I kind of have a concern with these as well.
Is there any other council persons that have comments?
So, Mayor, part of the goal tonight, we're here for just giving you an update and also to take any direction the council may have. I think it's important to keep in mind, you know, the commission was given a task by the council to look at our code and come back with recommendations. With their input, we've kind of developed what you have here. I understand there's a lot of issues. If the council feels that it's not time to make changes, this should be reflective of the policies of you and how you feel it should work in the community. You just need to provide us the direction on how you want us to proceed on this.
Any other questions? Well, I want to thank you, Mr. McBride, for all the work you put into this. I myself think that we need to spend some additional time maybe working with the different businesses and asking them how they feel on this. I think there's certain things in here that we could probably go ahead and approve, but I think and then the other part that bothers me is the enforcement. We need to process just like any ordinance we have for graffiti or anything like that, we need to have a way to enforce it. And I know if we, so it needs to be a part of it. So I think this is a good start, but I think that, and I commend you for all of the work that you've done and the Planning Commission for what they've done in working on this.
Okay.
So what's the,
You have someone to comment?
okay, if there's people out in the, I'm sorry, Mr. Lee, I missed you.
Eric Lee, 1199 Atwater Boulevard. Atwater. Madam Mayor, Council, Public. I realize this is going to be a tough decision, and I applaud your idea of revisiting this and going over it and possibly doing some revisions. Councilman Bergman brought up a good point about various signs being used for liquidation. I understand that, but the other thing is those of us who have been in business a long time and those of us who have strived to have a professional-looking building and are working hard to have a professional-looking part of the city, if we start allowing flags in front of every business, dancing billboards on every corner, I think that's a big concern for me. I've spent a lot of money doing what I've done. I would hope that you might consider what it does to those businesses that don't particularly care to have that going on. The other thing that I want to make sure of is that when someone is allowed to advertise their business, they're not advertising it downtown when their business is located on Bellevue Road, as far as a mobile sign or such. I think we just have to be real careful on this, and I really do believe it's going to take a lot of thought, because I just have a vision of 16th Street and Merced when you come into Merced and what that looks like. And we are working very hard to clean up Atwater Boulevard, both entrances into Atwater, and I think this is going to be part of that, and we need to really watch what we do with this.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Is there anyone else? Please come forward.
Madam Mayor, Councilman, I'd like to speak to this sign. I had a sign shop for 2 or 3 years in Merced. I sat on the Planning Commission. We did a sign review. I did not hear the one word I would like to hear tonight. The word is safety and hazard. And somebody has to check that. And if you don't do it, and if the sign gets run down, and I believe Mr. McDaniels can answer this, the election people, you have to have your phone number, your name,
Address the council.
social, I don't know what all, on a sign to
Mr.
have it
Wallace,
posted.
this way.
So I think I just like to make that, look at hazard and safety. That's the two things.
Thank you. Is anyone else in the audience who'd like to come forward and speak on this sign ordinance or proposed sign ordinance? Any person in the council? Do we have any direction from the council? Councilman Jeff Rivera.
I would like to make a comment that I believe we do need some restrictions, we do need some rules, but at the same time, we don't want to become a police state, especially when we only have one code enforcement officer, and we're asking for other code enforcements to be followed. I believe that people should be able to put signs up, especially the movable signs, but I got multiple phone calls, complaints where some businesses were putting 5, 10, maybe even more signs up, and I called the city manager, and that was dealt with, and I appreciate that. But one thing that I can't see is somebody putting that many signs up. We've got to come up with limits, but I don't want to be so restrictive that we're choking off our small businesses. Mom and pop stores are having a hard enough time competing with the box stores, and I don't want to strangle them, but at the same time, safety and not being gaudy is also important to the city. So I'd like us to come up with some type of formula that we can answer both issues to where there's not a safety issue, it's not gaudy, but at the same time, we're allowing our businesses to try to promote their businesses. So I think it would take more time than just slapping this together and passing it down the line. I think we need a little bit more time on this issue.
Okay, any other comments? So then, Mr. Jeff Rivero, do you have a motion to continue this process, and then that we'll kind of report back again, because I am talking with Mrs. Hunter, and we're going to try to work on the sign ordinance with the business people, to try to talk with them and see, and maybe bring back a report to you at the next meeting or the meeting afterwards. But
Yeah, I really don't want to put a timeline on it.
Right, I don't either.
But at the same time, I'd like the
We wanna keep it
businesses
moving.
to negotiate with the
Right.
city and work on this so that we can collaborate and come up with something that everybody can agree to, or most people will.
Okay, so then if it's an agreement with the council, we'll continue working on the sign ordinance, and we'll bring back the progress that we've made. Mr. Mooneyham?
Thank you, Mayor. A question for Mr. McBride. Was that enough direction for you at the Planning Commission level?
Well, what you have here is what the commission believes is they want to make a recommendation to you, and I probably have to talk to Tom about this, about the text amendment process. I think we have to go ahead and have the hearing and bring this to you for your formal action, but it's something we can talk about and make sure that we're not missing that. The difficult thing for us is, I understand everyone has different ideas on this. This is a really difficult section. We've been working on it for almost 3 years. I'm not sure how we're going to wrap it up and make it perfect in a period of a
We're
few
not
weeks or a month. It's really difficult. Everyone has different perspectives on it.
I don't think we'll ever make a sign ordinance perfect,
You won't.
but, at least we can kind of work on it and get ideas and everything, and come back, but
And you can always change it again.
and we can always,
You will change it again.
Yes.
okay, so so the direction of the council is to continue to work on this, and then we'll bring it back. Is that correct, gentlemen? And we'll bring it back. Do we want a formalized motion on this, or can we just give Mr. McBride some direction?
It's entirely within the council's discretion. I think staff has an understanding, at least, of the issues that are here. It might be that we bring back, and I'll consult with Director McBride on this, but it might be that we bring back the sort of the key issues that we see have been identified, certainly the human signs, the air dancer, those issues, and bring them back for maybe a series of policy straw votes, if you want to call it that, so that we can get some direction from the council as to what form they want us to bring this thing back in. We may do that at a later meeting, but maybe between now and then, Director McBride and his staff and myself will work on identifying what those key issues are, and then develop a timeline for bringing it back to the council.
I think the key issue also, City Attorney, is that we have to have some type of enforcement. If we're gonna have a sign ordinance or a sign, we need to have some way of enforcing it, or, it doesn't, just so we have some structure to follow, some procedures.
Well, we understand, and that is certainly something we discussed at the Planning Commission. We're going to be talking about it internally as well, within the context of your entire code enforcement chapters, and how we use administrative citations and other methods to bring about compliance. So you're right, that's a critical issue.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we're ready to move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you, Mr. McBride, and please thank the Planning Commission for their efforts. Item number 8, verbal report regarding Fire Department ladder truck, CAL FIRE Battalion Chief Pimentel.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, residents of the city of Atwater. Today, I'd like to talk about the ladder truck that we've been looking towards. I've pursued going through a long process in evaluating these trucks and looking what would be the best option for the city. My decision has been Rosenbauer. I'm going to have Mr. Kenhausen come up here and do a presentation in regards to Rosenbauer, and then after that I'll do a small presentation in regards to some questions that you might have for me in that regards.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and members of the public. My name is Ken Hallenstein. I'm the Central California Sales Representative for Rosenbauer America. I just want to give you a brief overview of our company and kind of what we do technology-wise as a fire apparatus manufacturer that's different than many of our competitors and that makes us provide a safer product and a more reliable product in today's ever-changing market. First, I'll show you our corporate headquarters in Lyons, South Dakota, which is about 30 minutes north of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It's our largest production facility, offers about 285 employees. We're producing over 600 trucks annually out of this one facility. An aerial view, currently we're about 80 acres. We have an expansion this summer of another 20,000 square feet of production floor space at this facility, and this is one of 4 facilities in the U.S. that we operate out of. Our second facility is in Wyoming, Minnesota, north of the Twin Cities. The smaller of the 2 facilities offering a different product, producing about 250 trucks. Annually, we do an extruded aluminum body, our crash rescue airport crash trucks, and also our chassis. We are a sole source manufacturer, meaning we produce everything in-house from the chassis to the body. We even produce our own pumps and our own aerial devices completely in-house and in the U.S. Finally, our aerial facility in Fremont, Nebraska, where we build our actual aerial devices, waterways, and control systems. And at this facility, we're adding an additional 30,000 square feet of production floor space to meet our current workload. Finally, just an overview of our international facility. This is our international headquarters in Leonding, Austria, one of 7 in the European market. We are the world's largest producer of fire apparatus, producing well over 2,000 units annually across the globe, with over 2,000 employees just on our production capacity side. In North America, we have 60 years of continued manufacturing experience. We're an ISO compliant company, which means we have written policies and procedures for quality control procedures and policies. Excuse me. This last year, we produced over 850 trucks just into the U.S. market. With our company, we are in an interesting position. We are actually a 50-50 partnership with the Austrian group, which each of our 3 facilities are still family owned and controlled. So at any one of our 3 facilities, you can pick up a phone today and talk to a family member who is still actively involved in the day-to-day operations of our facilities. We operate on long-term goals. We don't look at short-term. We're typically operating within 10 to 15 years outlook from day to day. At most of our facilities, we have at least 30 days of hard stock on hand to continue manufacture. We have 11 production facilities on 4 continents. We, by coming together with the Europeans, who are much more technology advanced than the U.S., we've been able to bring a lot of that back over to our side, which has enhanced our safety in the operating side of fire suppression. A couple of things are our smart controls, which we offer on our aerials, our Rosenbauer pumps, and we also offer a rear mount pump, and then our equipment storage systems. We are a custom manufacturer. We are able to meet all departments' needs. Every truck is built for the customer. There's not really a stock truck that we offer. We have some starting places, but from there, we can meet customers' needs very easily. We offer the latest engineering software. We're up to date, so it's very easy for us to meet all of our needs. Some innovations that we've had here in the U.S., we offer a smart aerial control, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Also our Green Star reduction technology, which I'll also talk on. Our Easy Load, Scene Safe control panel, our auto self-leveling aerial turntable, and our pumps. Again, 145-year company, extremely financially stable. We're not going anywhere come Friday. We offer a complete line of products, everything from small rescue devices to large 115-foot aerial devices, crash rescue trucks, one of the most complete lines. On our aerial side, we have 5 different aerial lines, ranging from entry level to very advanced. The top 3 you see are produced in the U.S. in Fremont. The bottom 2 are actually made by Metz in Austria. We're able to offer different products to suit different customers' needs. 2 of our 4 body options is our extruded aluminum body, which is made in Minnesota. It comes with a lifetime structural warranty, which is unlike anything else on the market. And it's also a transferable warranty. And then our combination formed and extruded aluminum product, which we produce in South Dakota, which offers a lifetime subframe warranty and varying warranties on the body depending on customers' needs and their requirements. Being a custom manufacturer, we're able to offer shelves and trays and tool mountings that are cost-effective and custom. Green Star IL reduction technology is something that we brought to the market 10 years ago, not so much for the emissions control, but also for fuel consumption reduction. We're having many trucks that were idle long-term, and we're consuming quite a bit of diesel, and as fuel prices were continuing to rise, people were starting to see, the departments in particular, were starting to see their budgets impacted by that. We came up with a system that offers a diesel-fired auxiliary power unit that once a department gets on scene, the operator just simply applies the brakes. There's no other intervention from the operator other than setting his brakes and going to operate on the call as normal. The system's designed that if it's anything where it's a non-fire emergency, so they're not using their pump or the aerial device, a timer engages. Anywhere from 30 seconds to 10 minutes, depending on the department's needs, it starts a timer. Once it hits that time threshold, the main motor shuts down and that diesel APU fires. It will run all the DOT required lighting, all the 1901 required lighting, all the warning lights, all the communications, and then with our system, it also offers the benefit of running all the HVAC climate control systems. So they're still able to use the apparatus to rehab and maintain themselves without actually having to run the main pump, or main motor, excuse me. On the fuel consumption side, we drop down to a quart of diesel an hour versus a gallon of diesel an hour. So that in itself is a huge savings. But also on the green side, is we're looking to produce less emissions, carbon monoxide and nitrous oxide, by using a smaller motor. We have a much smaller footprint in that regard. At the end of the call, once the firefighters return, again, it's a single push button for the operator to return the vehicle to the normal startup procedure. There's nothing else for the operator. This is something that is unique to our company. In working with Chief Pimentel, we just kind of briefly touched on Engine 42 and their call volume. Last year, on average, they ran about 1,100 calls with an on-scene time of about 30 minutes. So currently, that would give them about 575 hours of idling time. Currently, average price for diesel is about $4.25, changing and varying per day. Typically, with the normal diesel motor, you're burning a gallon and a quarter of diesel per hour. So you're using 719 gallons on non-fire calls, so medical aids, vehicle accidents, public service assists, things where they're actually not using the pump. Total cost of non-fire fuel was about $3,000. Getting down to the large nuts and cents of it, annual savings we estimate are about $2,400, and we look at that at an 8-year term, which is usually about when departments are replacing their apparatus. It gives you a savings of almost $19,000. Which more than pays for the system twice. So a huge cost savings to the departments. Also, for the maintenance side, they're having to maintain a small 3-cylinder motor, not the main chassis motor. They're also not using the regeneration systems on the chassis, which typically for departments that we have these systems on, they're having to go in for preventive maintenance twice a year, and at that time they're using those systems to regenerate the motor and the emission system. We have this in high production. Miami-Dade just ordered 30 additional pumpers with this system on it. So it's not something we are new to, and it's very well received. Our aerial technology, it's something unique to us that we've kind of been able to bring over from the international side. A couple things are our aerial command seat allows the operator to sit, so if they're in a long-term, a long duration incident, the operator is able to sit and still have all the functions, same visibility. We have to the, that's our command seat. To the right would be our body and collision avoidance system. The aerial actually knows where it is in relationship to the truck, so the firefighters actually can't hit the truck, which is a huge benefit. If they get distracted or something, the aerial will actually stop itself and prevent itself from causing damage to the apparatus. Down below in the left corner, we offer a wireless controller. It operates up to 400 feet away from the apparatus. It gives the operator full aerial controls. It runs on 2 AA batteries, so that now we're able to run the entire aerial with one person. And then finally, our short jacking technology is where we really excel. short jacking is a maneuver where we aren't putting our outriggers or stabilizers out in full reach. Typically, departments have to put it out on full reach on the side that they're going to operate off, and then they're able to do a short jack on the opposite side. Then they're limited to a very small percentage, about 10 degrees of operating off center. Ours is the color-coded system, 4 quadrants. Depending on what level you have extension, you get a range of motion. I could be out 25% on my outriggers, and it allows me to go out 45 feet at 0 degrees. So we can get in between 2 small parked cars, put our outriggers as far as we can, and we can actually still put that aerial all the way up 109 feet above the ground and flow water. So that's something that was unique to us, and it requires no overrides from the firefighters, and it's completely safe. It's a double redundant system. It's a CAN bus system, same thing that's in your cars today. Open source. It's nothing proprietary in construction, but it's extremely safe, and that's something we really pride ourselves on, is having a safe aerial, a safe and easy to operate aerial. Another feature for our aerials is our easy load hose bed. It brings the hose bed off the side of the truck and puts it at ground level, so firefighters aren't having to climb up to try and reload hose. They're not above ground. They're not having to lift 5 or 6 inch rubber jacket hose. So the whole intent was to prevent on back injuries and workers' comp injuries. The system comes down to ground level. Firefighters are able to reload the hose, put it back up, and it's very, very easy. Finally, our sales network. We have 35 dealers in the U.S. We have several factory direct, myself being one based in Turlock, California. We have a regional sales manager in Sacramento. We have well over 200 units into the California market. Several CAL FIRE units as well. Another thing we pride ourselves is on our warranty system. It gives the fire department full access to the warranty systems to see where the warranty claim is, to make the warranty claim, and work with the factory directly. Our goal is to prevent downtime of the apparatus. And that being said, we have several major things with our warranty that set us apart, being that we're open source. Our preferred warranty center is Westmark in Sirius. They've done our warranty work since 1990. But our warranty allows the department to do warranty maintenance in-house without voiding their warranty. We typically will send parts, or we'll also send parts and pay for the labor of the department. Or they have the third option of taking it to any service center that they feel familiar with, and then we'll deal with that vendor at that time, and the department has no part in that side. Again, the goal being to get your apparatus back in service. And finally, aftermarket support for parts. We are a non-proprietary builder. On our custom chassis, it's 95% non-proprietary, meaning that you can literally go down to Napa and get filters and parts for it. That's something we really strive for as a builder, to make it as open and easy for our customers to get to parts, and again, help that downtime be as minimal as possible. And then just quickly, some recent deliveries. We've just delivered 3 pumpers down into Orange County. Our first tractor-drawn aerial into Baltimore County, Henderson, Nevada, some custom pumpers. These units also have Green Star on them. I just delivered this truck up into Keys, California with Green Star. The Sentinel Prime from Transformers. If you have kids, they'll be able to point that out to you fairly quickly. And then some pumpers in Everett, Washington, and another volunteer company down in the Fresno County area. So that's a brief overview of Rosenbauer. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions? Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for Chief, if he could.
Yes, sir.
Chief, I know this says, the agenda item says verbal report regarding fire department ladder truck, but in essence, this is the replacement of a fire truck in its core, right?
Yes. It's going to cover 2 needs, and I think we've discussed this prior before, but we're going to have a need. We have a need for a fire engine in the city of Atwater. With this being a Quint, it's got the capabilities of having the aerial apparatus along with a tank and a pump, so it will be serving 2 purposes. It will be able to be an apparatus that could be first out, but also have on the back end have the aerial apparatus with the city needs, and to keep us at our current ISO rating. It's just to bring us back to the level that we were several years ago.
And how old is the unit that we had targeted for replacement?
The unit that we currently have in-house is a 1972, and it's only a 50-foot aerial. It did not pass it did a certification back in 2012. It did not pass, and for financial reasons, we weren't able to get that thing back in service. So currently, it is out of service.
What about the fire truck that would be
The fire truck, the one that's right now is currently our first out piece of equipment is a 1999. And the past 2011, 2012 fiscal year, we spent as a city, basically to round up, it's $36,000 in repairs to keep that piece of equipment in service. So it has cost us quite a bit to keep that thing running, but again, it's our first piece of equipment. It's something we need as a fire department to actually be running the calls. The other one is the one that we just purchased from 42, and the ultimate plan, that one's a newer one. That would be at the 41 station, which runs more calls. This apparatus would be at the 42 station, where it would run less calls and wouldn't be out there as much. But
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Councilman Jeff Rivero, followed by Councilman Bergman.
I just wanted to make a comment that that's a very beautiful truck, and no disrespect intended, but that truck will not help a burglary in progress. It won't help take a drunk driver off the street, and it definitely won't help keep drugs off of our street. We just passed Measure H to get boots on our streets, and that's what we should be focusing on now with our budget. So that would be good in the future, to look at a ladder truck, and it would be less expensive to the city if we started negotiating with a hotel that wanted to come into the city, because that would give us time to maybe get financing like what we did on our police cars, which it's paid over a 5-year lease. So my idea would be, it's fine to look at the truck now, but we need to bring in some businesses like hotels or people that would help bring in TOT money to help pay for an apparatus like this. So right now, I want to focus on boots on the streets. That's what people voted on Measure H. They want police protection. And I'm not saying cut anything down on what our fire protection is, but people want that response time, especially on the 911 for police calls. So thank you for the report, but I definitely want to get some more boots on our streets.
if I could respond to that.
Yes, Mr.
I agree with you 110%. But it was a public safety. Measure H was passed, it was public safety, which incurs the fire department as well. Right now, we're inadequate for the infrastructure that we have. That's why we're moved in this direction. At one point, we're going to be paying more to keep the apparatus we currently have in service to actually continue doing business as we should do for the public. And then on the other end of it too is we have gone down the process of finding financing for this type of apparatus to carry over 10 years, which in the long run, eventually we would like to use these businesses and have them have a portion put in to make that payment. So it's not something that's going to hit the city today at the $780,000 cost that I've showed you. It's something that's going to be taken over the years and will give us an opportunity to make those payments. And then also, it's not going to be a direct hit on the city of Atwater.
Thank
And
you. We have,
that's what I'm,
I have two people ahead of you, sir.
we'll have a-
Mr. Bergman, Councilman Bergman, followed by Councilman Joe Rivero, and then Mr. Jeff Rivero.
Thank you, Mayor. And while I agree with everybody else, we do need the law enforcement. That was part of this public safety grant, which covers everything. But we're already spending about 90% of our Measure H money on law enforcement, which I am 100% in favor of. We need these officers on the street. We are dealing with equipment that is antiquated. We've got equipment that is worn out, and we need to look at its replacement as well. Can you give me an idea of how many days in the last year Engine 41, which is our frontline engine, has been out of service?
It'd be a rough estimate, and I've got figures here, but you're looking at least, in a duration of the year, probably at least a month, if not 2 months, that it was out of service at another facility where we were using the second out piece of equipment, which is a 92. And again, once that one is gone, we don't have anything else to back up. It's going to be outsourcing to see what we can do to get by.
So we do need to respond to the burglaries. We do need to respond to these others. But what about our structure fires? What about our vehicle accidents where our firefighters are our first responders that provide the initial medical? There's all kinds of emergencies we have in the city that we need to address. And while I'm 100% in support of the money we're spending on law enforcement, we need to look at public safety as a whole and not focus just on one, but take the whole item of public safety and look at it equally as well. And I think we need to address this now and not later.
Thank you.
And
Mr. Joe Rivero, followed by Mr. Jeff Rivero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to withdraw right now and allow Mr. Rivera, he wanted some questions.
I'm sorry, what?
I'll withdraw my,
Oh, okay, then go to Jeff Rivero then, sir.
item phase.
I
One
mean,
of the
Councilman
things-
Jeff Rivero.
One of the things I was discussing with you is, I agree that we need to upgrade, but at this time now, I want boots on the streets. The second thing is, there needs to be a timeline formed out. We have possible hotels that want to move into town, and that's not going to happen overnight. But that will bring in TOT, and that also helps us negotiate with them that we need this truck because you're coming into town, which will hopefully help defray the cost from the citizens or Measure H or whatever. It comes out general fund, and it will come out of businesses coming in that want our business, that want to make our town better. So my suggestion is not just that, but I'm sure CAL FIRE has grants out there that would help the city too. I just don't think right now is the time to do it. I believe that we should be coming up with a timeline to put it together. I do agree we need a fire truck. I do agree that with hotels coming in, that needs to be a fire ladder, but I also want to be able to negotiate with businesses coming into the town to help us out, because some of them will be the ones that need that fire ladder on it.
And I agree with you 100%. The businesses that are coming in, they're going to look at what the fire department can provide. My worry is that the ISO would come out and do a reinspection of the city. They haven't done one since 2002. If they came out and saw the infrastructure that we have in the city, then we could be running into situations where it would be an increase in our ISO rating, which would increase the residents of the city of Atwater, their
Excuse me,
insurance
sir.
rates. Sorry.
Excuse me, can you define what ISO means, please, for us?
Standards
Insurance and Service Organization.
Insurance
Service Organization.
Service Organization. Thank you, sir.
It basically gives the insurance companies more of an idea of what their rating is in that city. Higher ratings, obviously, it's going to be higher than for the residents of the city of Atwater. Right now, we're currently at a 5. I wouldn't want us to exceed the 5 at this point. And when they did the 2002, we did have that aerial apparatus in service, and actually, I believe we had 3.0 staffing at both stations. So we've depleted in staffing and we've depleted in equipment. So I would be very, very worried that if they came in here, that might increase our ISO ratings.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other council persons who wish to comment, or Mr. Joe Rivero?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a few items here. First, I'd like to ask our city manager on the police officers. The city workers took a huge cut, okay, during the time to fix something that was done improperly in the past. And have they been fully, has their pay been fully restored at this time?
No, they haven't.
But a portion of it has gone toward, the Measure H has gone towards the police?
Correct.
Okay. Well, my point is this, that I'm making here, is that we had a lot of employees took cuts, took a sacrifice, and Measure H was supposed to put more boots on the ground, which it's working towards that. Some of their pay has been restored, but I don't see us going off in another direction until things are back being fully fixed. And now I hear, oh, there's 90,000. Oh, this fire truck's, it's over a long period of time, which I understand. That's all well and good, but 90,000 a year, nearly $1 million, 800-some thousand maybe after everything. So just because the money's there, the council shouldn't be saying, okay, now let's go off in this direction at this time until we fix what we have. The Measure H is there, and just to show the difference to the public, because they may not realize this, but the employees of the city took cuts. Okay, CAL FIRE, you guys actually got raises over the time.
No, they haven't.
You never got a raise?
Not recently, no.
No, I didn't say recently, but within some of this time period. So our own employees that we have, when there's Measure H money there, I see that some of our employees still continue to suffer. They need to be, it needs to be brought back into full before we go off into this other direction. Now, another fact is that a while back, there was a grant that was written, and it was something from Homeland Security, and they denied the extra tall ladder truck. And one of the reasons was that it wasn't needed in the city of Atwater.
What
Now,
year was this?
It's been a while, I'm not sure
It's
exact time.
Probably before the big box stores, because I'm sure if they would see those big box stores, they would probably move in that direction.
Well, I understand that some of the big box stores that we have, at the time, they met the codes, they met the fire. At that time, everything was fine. So with the fire apparatus that we had, which I guess was a 50-foot ladder. So to go out and spend on an extra long ladder, where if we're going to go out and do it, I say, okay, but with what we need. Now, it should not be the burden of the general public, which it is, because Measure H was a burden on all of the residents here, on the taxes we're paying. Now, if you have another additional big box store come in, or we have these large apartments coming in, they need to pay their fair share for this. The residents of Atwater should not pay for anything additional fire services that they're gonna need. So this is another thing that I'm looking at. It's like, no, you should not be using all that Measure H money for something else that, if another business wants to come in, they should pay their fair share too for the fire equipment that they're gonna need. So those are a couple of things. So that's my comment. I think that, yes, we could do it, but another thing is, one of the last fire trucks that was purchased back in 2000, a long while ago, that was purchased, a lot of that was through grants. So just because the money's there now, let's go ahead and spend it, the leftover 90,000, I say, no, let's look for grants to pay for it. If we're gonna go in that direction, look for grants, and then it won't be the full taxpayers' money of $90,000. Some of our own employees that took the cuts can get their full benefits back, and that's the direction I like to see us go. So I like to see public safety in all directions, but that's something that needs to be considered. And then one other thing too, if you look at where we were going downhill, anybody only has to look at the numbers and open up their eyes, because it was contracts that were given out that was costing us nearly $500,000 more a year. So there's a lot of things that have been going on in the city, and we need to address all of these things.
Right. Okay.
Please,
Mr.
Madam
Couch-
Mayor, point of order. Someone in the audience should not be yelling out.
Yeah,
If you have a comment, then come to the podium. Otherwise, we have.
If I can address real
Councilman-
quick, just one grant item. I know you discussed grants, but to get grants, to go over the process of getting an aerial apparatus and getting a grant to support that's, we have to go for purchase. We have to be out there purchasing it already. We already have to be sending out this information to these grants to say that we're already enveloped in purchasing it. And then again, it's gonna be like a 50% match. So the city is gonna have to fork out half that $1 million right now. So it's the one thing it's not the viable thing. But again, with that businesses coming in, we can get that money to support that 90,000 each year from those businesses that come in. So they will pay their fair share. So it's not just all going to come out of the Measure H. My plan is to have those businesses that are going to be enticed by this piece of apparatus and the fire department to actually put in money towards this apparatus that will be stretched out over a 10-year period. Just does real
I have
quick.
a question about that. Could you bring some of the grants available right now to the next council meeting? I mean, if that's enough of a time period.
There isn't any grants available right now. It would be next year.
Okay.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
Thank you.
We have Councilman Bergman.
I'll reserve my comments right now.
Madam Mayor, can I just
Yes,
quickly interject if I could?
City Attorney?
If the council elects to go forward with the purchase of an apparatus of this type or any type, this would need to come back with a purchase order. We need to come back with I was given the packet showing the potential 10-year lease option here a few minutes before the meeting. It would need to come back with a process, and the council's not deciding tonight how to fund it, how to pay for it, out of which account, or whether to pursue grants or anything like that. It was just as I understood the agenda item, it's an
verbal
informational
report.
item to give the council some feel for what's out there, what's available, and what the possible lease terms might be. So this would come back. I just want to assure the council,
Right.
from my perspective, it would need to come back by way of a purchase order, and we
Okay.
need to make sure we have a complete opportunity to review the contract.
I think, do we have somebody that wishes to speak? Mr. Lee, do you wish to speak on this item?
Eric Lee, 1199 Atwater Boulevard. Joe, you keep making mention of grants and things that were turned down and budget items that, and you don't come up with any dates or specifics, and I kind of wish you would, so you can say in year such and such or whatever, this grant was available and it was turned down because of something. It sure make it easier on us in the audience who kind of want to understand where you're coming from. The other thing that, you know, Jeff, I'd like to address you. You know, your forward thinking on solar for the sewage treatment plant tells me that, you know, you can look down the road and see a positive in certain things. And I think if you really look at this, you can see the positive in this as well. And, you know, the boots on the ground, that's fine. We're spending a lot of the Measure H money on that, and I think it's doing a good job. And you talk about hotels coming, TOT tax. As far as I know, if we have that piece of apparatus, the TOT taxes can be applied to pay for the vehicle as far as the lease payments go. And I wonder what the big box stores have ever contributed to this vehicle. I don't have those figures in front of me or know anything that Walmart or Target or any of the other stores over there might have paid into a fund that's going to provide a truck that will service that exposure. The other thing that I want to make you aware of is you keep referring to Measure H as if it was only the citizens of Atwater. Remember, Measure H taxes are the money that's spent in the stores here. It also encompasses people who live outside the city who have 95301 zip codes. And that money is allocated whether they spend the money in Atwater or whether they spend it in Turlock or whether they spend it in Los Angeles. If they're 95301, that half-cent sale tax come back to Atwater. And the last thing I want to address is fireman safety. And maybe the chief can go over this after I'm done, because I believe that this apparatus has a high safety factor for those firemen that are going to be using it and have to scale that ladder. The current ladder truck, I don't believe, has that capability. I don't think he would put a fireman up on that particular piece of apparatus.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam
Price?
Mayor, City Council. Jim Price, 3467 Village Woods. This report that came out tonight, I wish February 27th, when we had our Measure H Oversight Committee meeting, we didn't have these numbers, we didn't have this packet, we didn't have the proposal, we had nothing. We had Mark give us a briefing, and that's the extent of where that came from. So, in essence, when we talk about the Measure H money, we're talking about a non-endorsed purchase. We haven't had any vote. We had no further discussions. We had, you know, from the entire committee, we took no votes, anything pertaining to this particular item. When it comes to this lease purchase, we're talking about $120,000 in interest at the term of the loan. $120,000. What can that do in the way of law enforcement? When it comes to the purchase of a new piece of equipment such as this, also, my understanding is the lifespan of this equipment is 10 years. Well, 10 years times 10 years of Measure H, we're going to be right back to square one again. Moving on this rapidly as we are for the fire department and not for the police, I think is kind of contra to what we were talking about to begin with. All this business that we keep hearing about, what businesses have we lost? Have we had any interest that we have actually lost? Now, the only time I've ever heard any mention of any business lost was Mr. Lee on a radio interview where he said that there was 3, if I recall, interested parties. Did those parties ever come to the city? Did they ever go through the Planning Commission? Did they go to anybody within staff? I didn't hear that. I don't know, maybe they did. Auto response and mutual response is not in place according to this packet. If we had a fire this evening over at Walmart, you mean to tell me an auto response or a mutual response would not come from the ladder truck in Merced? That doesn't make sense to me, but that's what it says in this report. 90% of Measure H money is going to the cops? Not in the report that I saw. Training and costs, exterior to that which is in this here for cost, is not also noted. Training is not going to be a cheap deal, and that has to go on also. I'd like to know also about an RFP. Are we doing a sole source provider, or did we put out an RFP and get several bids for this particular piece of equipment? And finally, I'll just say that yes, the Measure H ordinance was passed with the understanding that we were going to put cops on the ground. And the thing that's disturbing to me is that right now we have 2 on administrative leave for an officer-involved shooting. That's just the same as having a cop out for sickness or vacation or anything else. So we're less 2 cops right now out on the street.
Thank you, Mr. Price.
And we need to go and make sure we put our safety first. I'm not against the fire department. I want everybody, including the cops, to be made whole.
Thank you. I think we're getting a little off of the, out of the agenda area, and so I think we need to kind of bring this back, but I have Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Mr. Price's comments, I don't think there's anyone up here that doesn't put safety first, just to clear that up immediately. Second of all, I would like to give staff direction to bring this back for our April 14th meeting, or if possible, not on April 14th, on April 28th. I would particularly like to see various financing options given the actual unit that is under consideration. I know right now there's general financing options that have been provided to us, but I'd like to see actual hardcore numbers, and also an appropriate purchase order that we haven't seen yet. So I'd like to talk to Mr. Petro and see if we can bring it back for our April 28th meeting.
April 28th?
14th or the 28th?
Probably 28th, given the amount of time that's necessary for that.
Okay. City Attorney, do we need to go through a formal motion on that?
I suspect on this item you will.
Okay, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham?
I'll put that in the form of a motion
Motion?
that we bring back this item for further consideration, and that staff provide various financing options on the actual individual item under consideration, and that we have an appropriate purchase order for our review.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Councilman Berkman. Any further discussion? Mr. Berkman, followed by Mr. Jeff Rivero.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify one point. Earlier, I made a generalization at 90% of the Measure H, projected Measure H fund is going to law enforcement. I stand corrected. I did the math. It's 89%. So I just want to make sure I got it out there right.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor, we have a second, and we have a request for comment from Councilman Jeff Rivero.
I still had a couple questions. I was going to ask, when do the grants open up? You said that this year would be.
I'd have to refer to my grant guy, which is Robert Blaze, or even he works closely with Lori Waterman in regards to that. And I just put back in mind too, these trucks don't just come out like tomorrow. They come out a year later. It does take quite a while to get them out, and we've already missed on one piece of apparatus recently, and with the ones that we were looking at was going to be a substantial savings. If we keep pushing it off, eventually we'll be paying top dollar for an apparatus. So I just want to try to keep that in your minds, that we're trying to save the best bang for our buck for the city.
Chief, can you bring back the grants for the 28th so we know what grants are out there? So we can make that as a part of our presentation on this on the 28th?
We can. I just want to confirm, though, it's not going to be something that, I mean, it's going to be a
Right.
big hit of money that's going to
Right.
come if we're to approve the grant. And I'm more than happy to see if we can get something for you guys.
Just going to
Rivera?
ask the gentleman, if we told you today, or January 1, that we wanted a truck, how long would it take to get here?
365 days.
A full year to get here?
It takes a full year. We typically, for a very custom build, typically we build demos. They come off about every 4 months. So our next one coming off the line would be September. So that gives us about about 6 months out, so 180 days currently. So.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and we have a second.
Could you repeat the motion again, please?
Yes, would you repeat the motion?
To direct staff to bring this item back to the April 28th meeting with potential financing options and a potential purchase order for review.
Call for the question.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 9, verbal report regarding the Allied Waste Professional Service Contract. Mr. Shaw?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Councilman. Apparently, there's been some discussion about the people we've been trying to get out of the city of Atwater due to Allied Waste has the exclusive rights to do all business in the city of Atwater on roll-offs, doing commercial recycling. I don't know. I brought the contract. I've talked to the attorneys. They have exclusive rights. If they want to subcontract out to another recycling company that they choose, that's their right.
Okay.
If I could just,
Yes. The city attorney?
it may be that there are folks who disagree with the way the director has reviewed or is enforcing the agreement. You know, it's a legal matter. If there are conflicting opinions about that, I would just publicly encourage those parties who take issue with it to bring that to director's attention, and he can, maybe by way of a letter from their counsel, so that we can try to resolve this at an attorney level, given that it's a contractual dispute. I don't want to get into a contractual dispute in front of the city council. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think it's fair to either side. So if there are concerns, I'll make my contact information available to anybody who wants to contact me, and I'll work with Mr. Shaw, and we'll arrange a powwow and see if we can hash it out.
Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham.
Just to dovetail off of that, I would encourage staff to take a proactive stance on this and actually approach Allied out of the gate instead of waiting for members of the public to voice. The concerns have already been voiced. I would hope that we would have a open discussion with Allied to see what they are willing to do. There's some local Atwater-based businesses that have been here for for several decades, carried on business in good faith, have been good neighbors to the city, and overnight, without their notice, told that they cannot conduct business of that nature. I think it's unfair. I think it's safe to say a majority of this council didn't even know that that proviso was in that contract, given the state of our economy at the time. And I would hope that we would take a proactive stance to right what I view as a wrong. Thank you.
City Manager
If I-
Petro.
I totally agree with you, Mayor Pro Tem. They sent out letters to all the companies stating that they had exclusive rights, and all the businesses that do business in Atwater received those letters.
Mrs. Bowling, do you have a comment on this item on the agenda?
Judy Bowling, 137 Judy Drive, Atwater. I clearly remember sitting here, and I, as a just citizen here, I recall that they gave us like $400,000 to help our budget, and basically we just signed on the line, yep, 100%, and we gave them the rights. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jeannie Knight, owner of Central Valley Disposal. My address is 3218 North Buhack Road, Atwater, California. Allied Waste is only authorized to collect items that are discarded. I'm going to guarantee you, when NCI and Westmark and Kmart put their metal in their dumpsters, it is not discarded. They fully expect to get paid very good money for those loads. So you're going to take their, they get at least $2,000 a load for their metal. So you're going to take it to the dump now? You guys have opened a can of worms. Not only that, did you read the contract? Did you read what that said? I mean, did you really read it? Do you know what you've done? Have any of you hauled your garbage to the dump yourselves? You live in the city of Atwater. Do you all have gardeners that trim your trees and take your tree limbs to the dump? You can no longer do that. This says the exclusive right to haul everything. I'm sure your citizens don't know anything about it. I mean, am I wrong? Isn't that what it says?
Well, again, the appropriate place to resolve this, I think, is in a separate meeting with the folks from Allied, certainly, and those local businesses that have been affected by this. It's not agendized as an agenda item where we're going to try to resolve it here in public, and I don't think it's wise to try to do so. Certainly, would devote whatever time is necessary and appropriate to meeting with those affected individuals, though, and I know staff shares that sentiment.
You know, I mean, you don't have a clue who all you've affected. You have no clue. My thing is, how are you going to tell everybody in the city of Atwater that they cannot haul their own garbage anymore? They can't go to the landfill. So nobody read it. Or else Keith wrote it, I'm not sure.
My suggestion to you is that we meet with the city manager, sits down with you, and you review the contract and the city attorney, and so we can work out some type of a negotiation and with the city attorney and get this straightened out.
And Allied Waste, you know, that's another problem I'm having. This contract is with the city of Allied Waste. Why do we have to keep waiting for Keith to come around? You know, he didn't write this contract, I don't think. You guys wrote it.
That's why I say I think we need to set up a meeting and find out exactly what procedures that we need to follow.
Okay, so in the meantime, I'm going to be hauling garbage out of the city of Atwater, and I'll pay you your 10% because you cannot enforce this. There's no way you can enforce this contract unless you sit at the dump and ask those people where their garbage came from. You know, I mean, there's no way you're going to enforce unless you hire about 100 other people. So I'll be bringing my dumpsters back into the city until this gets solved.
I will state it again, the best thing for you to do, and I know the city manager will have your telephone number, and we will call and set up a meeting. I think that's what we need to do.
Do you know how many times I've called him and tried to set up a meeting? I've called all of you. Nobody wants to meet. Nobody will return my phone call. You know that, Joan. I had to call you.
I've never received a single phone call from you, ma'am.
Well, then you better get your hold to your secretary and ask her why you never got them.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've never
Anyway,
received a phone call.
we will work on this matter, absolutely. Thank you for coming, we appreciate it.
Okay, but I will be putting my dumpsters back in the city until it's settled.
Thank you. Okay, item number 10, Mr. Shaw again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Councilman. On the water well levels, we sound the wells to see what the depth of the water is, pumping and off. I went back 2011, and from what I see, most of them only dropped like 20 feet, but that doesn't really mean anything. To get a true accurate reading, you need to have a pump company come in that do pump and well tests for drawdown, because the pump could be working harder to try to suck that water in through the perfs. So to get an accurate reading on how our wells are doing, we'd bring in a company that would do that and tell us how efficient our pumps are running, the water's coming in, to where if we have to clean the perfs, wash them down, whatever we need to do to open them up to get better flow so the pumps aren't working as hard. And with the drawdown, it could be because the perfs are getting plugged and it's not letting enough water come in, so that's why the water level's dropping so low when it's pumping. So really, to do it accurately would be to go and do a test on all the wells.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Shaw in regards to this matter? We will move on then to pardon me, Councilman Jeff Rivero. I'm sorry.
So I was gonna ask Mr. Shaw, in your opinion, how many wells are we down?
2.
And what's the ballpark figure, low end, high end of working with those 2 wells to get them back online?
The one well's done, well 9. There's not enough room to put another well there. Well 20, we're in the process of we've already done a test hole, and we're trying to find the funds to where we can put the new well in. All the equipment's already there, so it's not gonna be a lot. It's just gonna be basically putting the new well in and moving the equipment over to hook it up. And
From what I understand, I'm looking for my audit and finance report, but I think we had a few $1 million inside of few $1 million inside of our water fund. Yeah, it's $8.1 million in water fund capital replacement. Can we use some of that to get number 20 online?
yes, it's in the engineering phase right now.
So what's your expected timeline for that to be back up and going?
Until I get the engineer gets done, I could not tell you. Once we get the engineering done on it and get a hold of the driller, because they're back about 4 or 5 months.
So engineering report, what is the average time for that? What would you see the timeline being?
I should see in the next month. He's been working on it for about a month.
So about another 30 days? And then how long would you expect, talking to someone who can drill the well?
Well, I've talked to our well driller here in Atwater, and he said he's out like at least 3 or 4 months. He's booked up.
And on that, would we have to go at the RFP, or is that a service that we wouldn't have to?
City Attorney, do we have to go for an RFP?
In-
Well, drilling?
It falls kind of in that category of professional services, but at the same time, it's also involves a public works project, and probably would need to go out to bid. I'll consult with the director on that.
If we need to have one of the RFP written, can we start on that now? So that way we're prepared to jump on ahead of this? Because I know that
The
water pressure.
thing is like, we can't go out for that until we get the engineer.
Yeah, I'm not saying go out for it, but if we can prepare it, get our template ready and add the figures that we need to add in, so that way we can be in front of this ball, because if we have another well go down, I know our water pressure is already low, and the state, I don't want to see them coming in telling us it's too low. So I'd like to be in front of this instead of behind it and saying, why didn't we do something? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions on this one? Okay, then let's move on to item number 11, comments and requests for future agenda items from the council. And we'll start with Councilman Bergman.
Nothing to report.
Nothing from Councilman Bergman. We'll go to Councilman Joe Rivero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to remind everybody that April 5th at 8:30 a.m. at Ralston Park, Love Atwater is going to be meeting there. So April 5th, mark your calendars, 8:30 a.m. And also the Castlear Museum waffle breakfast is on April 27th. So mark your calendars for that and come out and have a great breakfast.
Don't you have another item, Councilman Joe Rivero, the track meet?
That's, yes, I said it several times now, okay, but just remind everybody out there, the kids out there, be out there getting yourselves in shape because the Atwater City Track Meet's been held for since I was a kid and participated, so it's been a long time. It'll be April 17th at Atwater High School. So parents, community, want to come out there and see kids having a great time and competing their very best, mark that down in your calendars, April 17th.
That's a
At
day-long.
approximately 8:30 in the
All
morning.
right, it's a wonderful event. Councilman Jeff Rivero.
So I was going to ask to have Mr. Paul Creighton put on for a certificate. He did an excellent job for us in Public Works, and I'd like the city council to give him a certificate and show our appreciation to him doing such a wonderful job at our next meeting.
Okay?
And then I wanted to remind everybody that if you're gonna go to the waffle event, to come in after 11:45, because he'll be cooking before then, and he tends to burn them and I don't, so if you come in after 11:45, and I'm teasing him and he's mad, but if you get a chance, come on out to the waffles. And I will be out there from 11:45 to 1 PM.
Okay, anything else, sir? Is that it? Yeah, okay. Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. I don't know if Mr. Shaw can answer this or not, but can you let us know how much cold patch that you're applying to our streets on a weekly basis?
Yeah, I could start looking and seeing what they're putting out, see if they can give me an estimate on what they're loading the truck every day.
Yeah, I don't think I'm the only one in the room who thinks our streets are in the worst condition they've ever been, hands down. And I know it's a spit and baling wire solution, but I think we just need to be throwing as much of that out there on a weekly basis as possible. If I could ask the city manager that we add an ongoing agenda item for an update on routes that have been had cold patch applied to them for potholes and major cracks. I think it's part of this council's duty to oversee that, just because that's almost the only thing I ever hear from our citizenry is the condition of the roads. It's just abhorrent. So if you can encourage your guys, we need to get out there, man. It's bad.
Yeah, no, I've been trying to get them out there every single day.
Okay. Yeah, if we can bring that back every time, just to hear what they've done, what you guys have done.
Okay.
Also, Winton Way, does that qualify as a state route? Do you know that answer? Winton Way?
State route?
Yes.
No.
I understand that it falls into that category.
Whitten Way is a state route?
That's what I was told.
No.
It
I
falls into
don't
some.
think so. I think
There's any, okay, well, I'm directing it to staff. I don't know if you could find out if
We
there's
can
any,
find out.
any way that it falls under, excuse me.
state route, huh? Okay.
If there's any way that we can find out if it's eligible for any statewide money to come in and fix that. Obviously, between Juniper and Atwater Boulevard, it is just fallen apart. And that's one of our highest trafficked roads.
If I could make a comment, yeah, we know Winton Way is in very poor shape. We do have, as part of the project that you approved for us to get the engineering started on for the Atwater Boulevard Winton Way intersection project, where we would be basically reconstructing from just south of Olive Avenue to Atwater Boulevard as part of the project. But it doesn't solve all your problem, but does help take care of that. Now keep in mind, we're just doing the engineering now. We still have to request for the use of our own funds that we already have to do the work. The earliest we could possibly get that approved and get into construction would probably be January, February 2015, so it's a ways off.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else, Mayor Pro Tem? Okay. Okay. First of all, I want to thank all of the volunteers and everyone that helped us to put on the Atwater Cleanup Day last Saturday, March 15th. We really had wonderful help in coming out, our volunteers, and so we really wanted to thank everyone that helped put that on. And we had, the next one is that I want to congratulate the City of Atwater's Fireman of the Year, and that's Arturo Vargas. And Mr. Vargas will be honored. He will also be honored in front of the City Council, but he will also be honored at the firefighters reception that's going to be held April 2nd at the American Legion, where they honor all of the fire persons from throughout the county. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting, and thank you very much for coming. Meeting adjourned.
It's some kind of.
Can you?
Yeah, it's one of those things that you never.